how did you first meet Mimi?
So I was working at the coffee shop across the street, Cafe Lux in Santa Monica. And when I'd get up in the morning at 5 a.m. to open the cafe, the only other person that was up on the street was this, late 80s, mid 80s back then, elderly woman, kind of all cramped up, starting up her day. It got my curiosity going. Who is this lady? What is she doing up so early, and why is she inside a laundromat at 5 a.m. in the morning?
Right. Wow. Had you had any experience with meeting homeless people before?
So I grew up in Israel, and when I came to the States in my very early 20s, and right after the military service, before that, we never had homeless people in Israel. I'm not sure why, but maybe because it's a young country, and now we do, unfortunately. So when I moved to New York to go to acting school, I saw homeless people all over the place, and I was like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Why don't they have families to, friends? Like, did not make any sense to me. I didn't understand the concept, and so I started working in New York and going to school in New York, and then I was like, wow, that it's not that far-fetched from, like, it can happen to all of us, actually.
Because you've been in Sarasota for a few days, and I know you're in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of widespread homelessness there. How do you see that comparison between what Sarasota is dealing with and what you've seen and what Los Angeles is dealing with?
It's kind of similar. It's scary, actually. I live in Santa Monica. It's also a beach town, and so I think it attracts them. They like to be by the beach, maybe. I don't know. Similar, concerning. They're just out there all over in doorways, and I guess it's everywhere. What do we do?
Yeah. Did you? I mean, when you were trying to I know you were documenting Mimi's life,
right?
But it also seemed as if you were trying to find ways to help her. Did you find a lot of things that were going on in that Los Angeles area that are trying to help homeless people get back on their feet?
When I met her, she was already living in the laundromat for a very long time, and I didn't really knew that she was living at first, like maybe the first couple of years or so. Because you saw the film, she's very secretive about her life, so it took me a while to find that out. But again, she seemed like the happiest person on the planet, so it didn't even cross my mind, like, well, what can I do for her other than take her out. She loves going out to nice restaurants and drink and have fun and sing and dance. And later on, when I learned that she was living there, and a lot of people did try to help her out, and the owner of the laundromat, he tried to put her up in a facility where they help the elderly. She never wanted. She wanted to stay at the laundromat. It's the hottest spot in LA, I guess.
Yeah.
So
you think she just liked the attention there or something?
I think so. I mean, yeah. It's prime real estate. I say if you end up in a laundromat, like, pick the right one, because you never know. You never know you're gonna meet. You never know. I mean, it's amazing. Our community in Santa Monica, people are extremely generous and kind, and a lot of people try to help her out, and eventually it worked. I mean, it took 18 years, and the key factor with Mimi is that she was always mostly pleasant, and her saying yesterday's gone, leave it there. Like, she's a very focused on the on the present moment, and I think if we're able to do that, then the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. In the movie, she came out of a marriage where she was forbidden to work by her husband.
Right.
And so that when that marriage broke up, then she's out on the street with no marketable skill set.
Right.
Do you think that there are many people who are experiencing that same thing, coming out of a relationship or coming out of a situation where they just don't have any marketable skills and aren't able to work because there's no one hiring for what they have?
Right, right. And in her case, it's also that, you know, it's 30 years later, you're not, you know, a spring chicken anymore. So imagine if you were in, you know, in a situation where you didn't interact much with the working world, and then all of a sudden you got out, and, you know, like, yeah, what tools do you have? What can you do? Yeah, it's an issue. I mean, I see that's probably what, you know, homeless people deal with, when the guys that are on the street, and it's like, what can they do? You know, how can we incorporate them in the working society?
Right.
And so I think once it becomes a phenomenon, then it's, you know, people, it becomes a theme, and it's like it's acceptable almost. It's like, oh, okay, you know, like, they're homeless, I can be homeless. Worst case scenario, I can be homeless too. You know, it becomes its own inner life. And
we went to see the Sundance Bill Gates Shorts Festival, and then they had a panel on homelessness after that. And in one of the films, it was called Man in the Maze, it was talking about how in Arizona they're rethinking their food distribution methods, because a lot of the foods that are crossing the border over there, if the price goes up in Florida on tomatoes over there, then they have all these tomatoes here they can't sell, so they just throw them in the landfill. You know, throw away millions of pounds of food. And so they're starting to rethink that seeing food as just a commodity, you know, and as you know, a sacrament, and sort of a way to increase health and that kind of thing. And so they're growing their own foods and all that. And I asked the panel the other day about how do we start to rethink this thing we call real estate. You know, we realized 7,000 years ago in Macedonia is when we started, you know, let's draw some imaginary lines in the sand. Now this belongs to you, and you can pay taxes on it, you know, and this is all just something we've added to our idea. But with that, people can't afford to play that game, and so they're being thrown out into the streets. Do you think there's a chance of us being able to rethink real estate and giving people realizing that property is a place of home, is a place for people to live, not just a commodity?
I think you're onto something, because there are, just like tomatoes, there are many, you know, homes out there that are probably available for people to move in and, you know, give them a second chance. It's like, you know, an empty store on a street. Why not do something with it? Why not turn it into a gallery, or, you know? I believe with technology now, maybe we would be able to make all those, you know, help faster. It just make more logic with all those great ideas. That's what technology is all about. So if we can find a way to make an app of, you know, the next home, the next available home for the next homeless. Well, a lot of it is awareness, and, you know, and we're not paying attention to those people because it's comfortable not to see them. And hopefully, if we bring those issues to the front lines, then people would start finding the solutions.
A lot of people I hear say that if the homeless people would just get out and get a job and get out and work, then, you know, they could build their way up and all this kind of stuff. And you're looking at someone like Mimi, who already works 7 days a week, you know, and she's 88 years old. It's not really feasible to think about her going out and getting a job and pulling herself up by her bootstraps. Is there another way we need to start appreciating these people, the talents, the skills that they bring to the table?
And not all of them are capable of, you know, getting a job right away because of skills. And oh man, that's a loaded question.
It is.
I met another person that she does her laundry at the laundromat where Mimi works, and she's a writer, or was a writer, want to be a writer. She's a writer. I'm not even sure, but she consciously living in her car. Like, that's a choice that she made. You know, waiting to publish her book maybe someday, you wouldn't be able to tell that she's homeless. If she got a job and you know, made $9 an hour, and then try to find a place for, you know, $1,200 a month, how is that feasible? Really? I don't know. They need a head start. They need push. We need to pick them up and bring them to the, you know, starting ground, and from there they can build. Some of them need education, some of them need to be cleaned up from drugs, and some of them need medical help. It's bigger than that. I think it's bigger than just like, you know, Mimi got lucky in many ways to be able to just walk into a laundromat, you know, and just started being likable by the people, and eventually they let her stay there. So it would not happen to everyone, you know.
Do you think we need to start rethinking our affordable housing? I mean, as you say, if there are jobs in LA, they're only paying $9 an hour. They're not going to pay your rent, much less anything else you want to pay for in Los Angeles. Is there any movement in Los Angeles to rethink that with a lot of ideas that are going around the country, or like tiny houses and those kind of things? Is anything like that going on in LA, or should there be?
Yeah, there are some affordable living, but I think even those are kind of expensive. I'm not sure how realistic it is. Those places would be great for someone like me, a filmmaker, you know, one step before you become homeless.
Sure.
But for someone, again, who's, you know, imagine like someone who's just graduated high school and starting up in the world, like, and then they have to get their own car, apartment, medical insurance, and, you know, the only place that they can possibly work is what, Starbucks or, you know, McDonald's. Like, it's not enough. It really is not enough. There's got to be a bigger solution.
Have you heard anything about this Housing First initiative? And like Utah is doing Housing First initiative, has for the last several years, and decreased their homeless situation by like 75%. Colorado is doing the same thing. There's a place in Oklahoma that's doing it. We're starting to look at that here.
Oh, wow.
Are you familiar at all with that concept?
No, actually I'm not. Educate me. Housing
Well, basically,
First.
it's Housing First. It's finding these chronically homeless people. It's a lot cheaper. It's about a third of the cost to put them in an apartment and get them a social worker than it is to continually pay for them to go to jail, the emergency room, and all that kind of stuff.
See, that's a great solution.
Yeah. Compassion is actually economically feasible.
Yeah, and you know, who wouldn't want to like give back if you get such a, you know, so much support? Like, you would want to get back into society and do right by everyone. Yeah. Great initiative. I hope it spreads all over.
Had you ever imagined being a documentary filmmaker before, or was it just something about this subject that said, I got to do this?
Yeah, I think I'm attracted to homeless people. Maybe it's because I'm an actor. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of ending up like one. I even remember my first character work that I did for acting school was a homeless guy. So as I was doing the documentary, I'm like, why am I doing this? You know, what's the attraction? Yeah, it's definitely, I have a special place for those people. I wanna bring it, you know, bring it into mainstream and help them. There's another documentary that I'm thinking of doing, is taking homeless people and kind of give them second chance. So what if you did, you know, picked up a few people that are, you know, they still okay, they can communicate and they're not mentally ill or physically ill, and you tell them, here's an apartment, here's a job, let's clean you up, let's, you know, give you second chance, and kind of bring them back to society. So yeah, it's dear to the heart, I think. Do
you think that film or any form of creative art is important in addressing these social issues that can actually help to change the way that we interpret the world and act in it?
I truly believe so, yeah. Even though sometimes it seems, so like, great, you made a film, but how's that going to help? It's the awareness. It's putting the word out there. If you affect one person, you possibly affect 100%. And if you affect 100, maybe 1,000.
How do you compare Richard Gere's character, his story, what he was going through, with what Mimi was going through?
Similar in many ways. I told Oren at the end of his screening, after the Q&A at the party, I told him that so my film is basically the real, the reality of your fiction. That's Mimi's, to a degree. That's Mimi's story. All of them, all those people. They all had normal lives at some point. They all had normal upbringing, sometimes families, and all of a sudden they're not normal anymore. They're bad people. They're criminals. Homeless is they're all. It's all the same.
Mm-hmm.